What's up, everybody? This is the first episode of a T8 Outdoors podcast. I'm working on highlighting people in wheelchairs who've done extraordinary things just to show that it's possible out there. Someone's done this, so why can't you? I just want to build people up to, get off the couch. There's a life out there. There's a world out there, post injury, whatever your cause may be. Just to show you why you can do amazing things in this life and live this life. So my first guest on the first episode is my good buddy Evan Brannock. He's a hunter. He's from Oregon, right? You're from Oregon?
Yeah, I'm from Southern Oregon.
Cool, yeah. Evan's a very accomplished hunter. He's got some sick tags. He's got a yogi right up over his shoulder there. He's got
Yeah.
a bunch of cool critters. That guy right there. I don't know if you guys can see him coming from Zoom. I'm gonna try to get this out on YouTube so you guys could see it. But
Yeah.
Evan's got some cool stories, and he's been on an adventure that I really, really want to do, and I am really leaning towards pulling the trigger here in the near future. So,
Highly
Evan,
recommend.
thanks for being on the show, bud. And you ready? You ready to start chatting?
Yeah, let's do this.
Cool, man. So let's start off. Can you explain why you're in a wheelchair and what your disability is?
So, I was born with spina bifida. So, basically, the best way to describe it was when I was born, I guess there was a hole in the vertebrae exposing the spinal cord. And it didn't quite paralyze me, but it definitely affects my ability to walk without crutches or without assistance. And majority of the time, if I'm out doing things around town or exploring or hunting or traveling, I use my wheelchair for big places, and then I can walk short distances with my crutches.
Yeah, but just
And
being out in the woods, the chair is probably more convenient.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, my regular wheelchair is good for like on dirt roads, but I have a track chair that is amazing for being off road and getting a little farther away from the noise of the dirt roads and cities and stuff.
Cool. Let's pick on that topic for a little bit because I also have a track chair.
Yeah.
What are what are the pros and cons that you've found so far with the track chair?
So the pros are almost silent. It's battery powered, so they don't hear like a four wheeler or a side by side when you're out there. It sounds more like heavy walking of a couple people or a few animals. The downside is battery life. I only get about 2 miles, give or take, depending on the terrain. So it's that's kind of my downside for that. But the freedom to get away from the road and be able to be almost silent is amazing.
Have you taken any game from your track chair yet?
Yeah, I've got multiple turkeys and multiple deer out of my track chair so far.
Cool. How are you hunting in the track chair? Are you putting a blind over the top of you or are you brushing in?
So I've done the brushing in mostly, just sit next to some heavy brush and shadows. I've tried hunting out of the blind with it. It's just a little awkward unless it's a really big blind to draw my bow. So I usually just try and hide in the shadows behind something or next to a tree so that the animal has to walk past me before it sees me.
Right. Yeah, that's what I found as well. Brushing
Yeah.
in is definitely way more convenient than sitting in a blind. And then with the blind, you're with that big of a wheelchair, you're very confined, especially when you're trying to draw
Yeah,
back a bow.
yeah, it's definitely a lot tougher to draw back a bow from a spot that's 6 by 6 foot square.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Sick, man. So with the track chair and you're out in upstate Oregon, I mean, the with what I found is almost exactly what you said too, is battery life, getting
Yeah,
out getting out into some of these spots. I mean, it's don't get me wrong, it's a game changer. Like it gets you out there, out in the woods and
oh yeah,
out in nature. But if
yeah,
you go too far, man, and you can't get back, and then how you gonna get that chair back to the
yeah,
truck
yeah,
or whatnot,
yeah. That actually, that's funny thing about that is that actually happened to me once in Eastern Oregon. I was out in the alfalfa pivot archery hunting antelope a few years ago, and the heat kind of overdid the chair, and it battery died. But luckily, I was only about 400 yards from the truck, so I had a buddy that was down the road in town, and he helped me get back to my truck, and we figured out how to get the track chair back to the trailer and charge it.
Yeah,
So
probably
it
you were
wasn't
probably
too
pretty
bad.
well crispy too then by the end of that adventure.
Yeah, I was pretty mentally and physically fried from that one because I was sitting out there out in the center pivot for a couple hours waiting for the antelope to pass by me, and there wasn't much there for shade other than get close to the pivot when the sun was in the right spot.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Dang, dude. Well, the difference between that and this next adventure I want to chime in on is probably night and day difference. You went
Yeah.
to Alaska, bro. That's sick. I've been going to Alaska every year for the past 7 years, but just for fishing and stuff. But it's always been a dream of mine to go hunt, especially, hunting caribou and hunting moose and all those, the
Yeah.
Jurassic Park up there, man. But
It's unreal. Everything that they show on like National Geo and Discovery and all that, that's for real. There's
hell yeah.
literally at times hundreds of caribou running past you through the valleys and across the hills. And then you'll go for hours or sometimes days and only see a dozen.
Cool. So how did this trip come about? Like, where did you just decide
So
one day I want to go to Alaska, or how did this work?
no, I've been to Alaska half a dozen different times for like exploring and fishing and stuff myself since I was in high school. And I'm 44 years old now, so I got a lot more planning to do for a few more hunts up there. But that one that was in 2021, that was like 2 years worth of planning with me and my buddy Caleb and Riley and his family. And it was a lifelong dream of mine to be up there in that spot, not that spot specifically, but up in the Brooks Range and see those caribou in person and hopefully bring one home. And they helped me make it happen. It was, like I said, probably 2 years worth of talking, planning, exercising, mentally preparing myself, doing all the things that everybody in the able-bodied world would do, just in a different situation. Like I probably lost close to 50 pounds and gained a lot of mental strength from all of that situation.
Yeah, I would say just get losing that personal weight off your own body's got to help flight wise, because you can only bring so much weight on each flight out.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely a whole different world being 50 pounds lighter than I was 2 years earlier. And the chair was, I don't know exactly what the brand is, but it's got like bigger tires on the front, like big wheelbarrow kind of like casters with big knobbies on it, and then the tires on the back are more like e-bike type, like big knobby tires. So it worked a lot better to get that through the tundra.
Yeah, so I just want to give a heads up to people who are in wheelchairs who are listening to this. When you're flying out into Alaska, out into the middle of nowhere, you're not flying on, big passenger airplanes. You're flying on little tiny airplanes. They're called like Cubs, Super Cubs. They have several different planes, but it's all weight. Everything's
Yeah.
judged by weight. So your wheelchair weighs, you weigh, your medical supplies weigh, everything
Yep.
weighs. You bring all your clothes are gonna weigh, your food is gonna weigh. Everything you could possibly think of adds weight to that airplane. So you gotta condense everything you're packing in to just the bare necessities of what you can get to buy to survive out there. So
Yep.
it's no joke, because if you're out there and and it something hits the fan with you medically or something like that, it's gonna take hours for an airplane to get out there. And let's say it's raining, plane can't come in.
Yep.
It's snowing, the plane's not gonna come in. It's got high winds, plane's not coming in. So it's a
Yep.
it's a dangerous adventure. Alaska's no joke. It's where the big boys go out to play, and that's why I wanted to invite Evan up on here, because he pulled it off, and he's you know he's got my respect, and he's got a lot of people's respect. So tell me, Evan, what all happened on the trip, dude? So let's say you go from Oregon, you fly into Seattle, or did you go straight to Anchorage, or how did that work?
So Medford to Seattle, Seattle to Anchorage, Anchorage to from Anchorage we flew to Prudhoe on a smaller plane, and then from Prudhoe we got on one of the bush planes and flew out to the base camp, which is out in the middle of nowhere in the Arctic wilderness. And from there, I hung out for a few days, got my bearings, figured out things, got comfortable with the terrain out there. Um, Met a lot of awesome people that were already at camp. Um, Big game backcountry guides, Riley and Stephanie Pitts are the ones that organize the most of the trip, and Caleb White and his wife Kayla are absolutely amazing. I've known them since I was in high school, maybe even longer. And Caleb was there with me for over half the trip, and he was there with me when I physically got my caribou, and that was an experience that I will never forget.
Cool.
It
So I
was,
I saw I saw a video on your Instagram. If you guys physically tied down the wheelchair to the wing of the airplane, and it was
yeah,
hanging out outside of the airplane while you were inside
yep,
of the airplane. How nervous were you while that was going on?
a little bit, but I knew that they knew what they were doing.
Right? They
Oh,
probably had that
and
thing strapped down tight.
pretty tight, yeah. And where we were, it was such open country that if something did happen and the airplane or the chair did fall off the strut somehow or the wing, it would have been easy to find. It was open tundra for a couple 100 miles between where we were at out in Spike Camp and Base Camp. So I was a little worried, yes, but I knew if things went sideways, they would figure out how to get me out there or get me home.
So I want to, something you just said right there. I want to bring it up to the people in wheelchairs who might be thinking about doing this possible thing. Base camp is where you fly in, and that's where your main stay is. That's where, like, it's usually a physical residence or whatnot, and you're out there, and they got chefs and food, bunks, all that stays. And then Spike Camp is where you go from there, and that's where you sleep in your tent. you're in the thick of it. It's you're straight nature under the stars. There's no leisurely accommodation. So that's the difference between a base camp and spike camp. So, all
Yeah.
right, dude, you get into spike camp, and what are your thoughts, man? What are you looking around at? Just God's country, right? Just gorgeous.
Yeah. It was 360 degrees of nothing but us and air and the animals in the mountains. No sign of civilization other than an occasional bush plane that would fly by and drop off another group of hunters miles up the valley somewhere. And then it was, I think we stayed out there for 3 days before I got my caribou. And every night was unreal. It was under the stars, like you said. Some little bit of rain every once in a while, but it was the end of August, so it was pretty mild, believe it or not, for being up above the Arctic Circle. Probably during the day, 60s, low 60s, and then at night, probably 40s, give or take, and sometimes a little bit of rain
You
and
get any northern
snow,
lights?
snow for a couple mornings. No, I wasn't there late enough in the season for that. That was in sometime in September. They started to see it a few times,
Right.
but
So,
overall, unreal.
yeah, just amazing. When I go up there and just for fishing and just I'm blown away. I could only imagine being hundreds of miles in the back in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and like that's where I want to go, man. Like, don't get me wrong, I like people, but
Yeah,
I don't like y'all that much, dude. I want to get me out there, dude. You know what I mean? Like, let's do it. That's my main thing about hunting and fishing is just getting away from the populations, dude. But
yeah. It
so
was an amazing reset for my mind and body for that too. That probably we were there for almost 2 weeks.
yeah,
It was
no
awesome.
joke. 2 weeks, damn, you're out there that long? So how
I
long were
was
you at Spike Camp?
I was at Spike Camp for 3, and then the next 10, 8 to 10 days, I was over at base camp because I didn't have any other things I was trying to. Well, I was trying to hunt another animal. I had another grizzly tag I was trying to get, but I never got a chance. We saw one within a few hours after landing at Spike Camp, but there's a 24-hour window, I think, or a 12-hour window after you land before you can actually hunt out there. So it was literally less than 3 hours after we landed. I saw a bear at 800 yards that I should have just like it was so beautiful. I was hoping it was going to come back the next day sometime.
Right.
So if I would have been
Yeah,
able to follow it, I would have definitely followed it for a while just to watch it.
yeah. For those who don't know, Alaska's got a rule that when you fly out there, you can't hunt for 24 hours after you land because they don't want people flying airplanes to look for game and look for animals, and that'd
Yep.
be a massive disadvantage. And
Yeah.
it's cheap. It's a cheap way to glass and hunt. It takes away the fun of it, but people would
Yeah.
do it. So well, I'm
Yeah.
I'm
And
I'm for it. I'm for the law. I'm for the rule. It's cool
yeah,
to
so am
see.
I. Yep. I am too. It was amazing to see. Frustrating, yes, but it was amazing to see. And I know the stars will align and I'll get my opportunity to go back eventually and bring home either a bear or a sheep or moose, something. I still have a list of animals up there that I'm gonna bring home.
Well, I know another dude in a wheelchair who's more than down to go with you, bro. I think we should make
Yeah,
this happen.
I think we should figure something out and do this.
So tell me what the situation was like with the caribou. Were you out glassing and they popped up and you had someone push you through the tundra? Because out there the ground is it's like a sponge. It'd be probably
Yeah,
very, very hard to push manually for very long distance at all. If
yeah, it was.
anybody in a wheelchair out there is thinking about doing it, it's called yeah, it's called the tundra for it's no joke. So yeah, tell me the story. How did it all go down?
So 3 days out there, we kind of made a plan. We knew kind of the draw that they were going to come out of and walk across the gravel bar out in front of us at about 800 yards from the tent where we were staying. So we knew we had to cut the distance at least in half, if not more. And I knew my capability with my rifle, and my buddy was right there helping me the whole time. So we saw a few, tried to make a plan, didn't pan out quite like we wanted to. I did get a couple shots off, but my nerves got the best of me on the first group of them. And I know I overshot because I didn't range the distance correctly. And it wasn't anybody else's fault but my own. And nice caribou. The one that I got was unreal. It was big white mane, big velvet, almost like iridescent white antlers, and by no means a world record in the book, but to me, it means everything to me. And I would never change anything about that experience ever again. I would do it all over again, same situation, no matter what. And it was unreal because, like I said, we saw probably a few hundred a day for a few days, and then there'd be times where we wouldn't see more than a dozen. And then on the other side of the river, there was, I think, three or four that were unreal. They would probably have gone 5 feet wide at the top. They were huge.
You think they break the 400 class?
One of them would have. I bet it was probably well into the 400s. It was probably 5 feet wide at the top, and it had points coming off of everything. I think there was a couple of them that we could see that had stripped their velvet off already, so their antlers were that pink color. Even from a distance, you could still see that they were definitely more mature and just bigger in general. And the cutting the distance was the tough part because you would think go straight towards them. No, you have to cut at an angle to get around certain obstacles. So we had to literally cut back and then cut back in front of them again the best that we could and kind of almost ambush them and wait for them to get to a certain point. And the one that I got was, like I said, the my dream caribou for the looks. I wanted the velvet, I wanted the big white mane, and I knew something was a little different about him because of just the characteristics. And then when he stopped, I knew, okay, I got a split second. This is the chance. He stopped on the rock cliff or the scree field at about 450 yards, and one shot and he was done. I literally tipped over like I hit him in the head with a hammer.
That's the best way
And
to do it. You don't got to
yep,
chase them down.
yep, perfect shot, and he was done right there.
What was it?
And then
Double lung, high shoulder? How? Where'd you hit him?
lungs, it was a double lung, so it was enough shock to knock him over. So I shoot a
What
300.
caliber? 300 Win Mag?
Yeah,
That's a lot of. If people out there who aren't into the gun world, that's a lot of punch right there. So yeah, that's a big gun. That's a big boy gun.
yeah, I knew that I needed something bigger than my 243 or my 30-30. So I brought my 300 with me, and I knew my capability out to 600 was high plate or smaller. So I knew what I needed to do. And like I said, with the first group, my nerves got the best of me. I shouldn't have shot because they were misjudged on the distance, but live and learn. And then with this one, I knew, okay, I have to make this count immediately. Otherwise, I'll lose my opportunity on my dream bowl.
Cool. And so you smoked them, dude, and then you come up on them, and like I sometimes, man, like I'm not gonna lie, like I get emotional, especially when it's like when it's the caliber of animal that that you're just
Yep.
mind blown. Like there's a feeling, of taking a life. And don't get me wrong, like you take
Yeah.
a life, and it not just out there hunting and just savage, bloodthirsty killers. You know what I mean? Like you're taking
Right.
a life, but then you're also, like Jim Shockey, he always says, life begets death, begets life, begets death, begets life. It's a circle of life, like something has to die in order for something else to live, and that something else to live just so happens to be me. So you best know something be dying.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, it was definitely a very emotional time for me. I'll admit, I cried. I cried like a
yeah,
little kid for a few minutes.
I've done it too, man. I've done it too. No joke, dude. No joke.
Yep.
Especially that being out in the middle of Alaska and out in the bush, dude. Like
Yep.
I've never heard of anyone in a wheelchair doing that, dude. Like I've contacted several people who've harvested caribou, but they've done it a lot more simply. They didn't do it full on, like the way
Yeah.
I want to do it. So
Yeah. They probably where they were was probably the southern part of the state, somewhere off of one of the main roads.
yeah, dirt road hunting. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, I would
Which
I would do that in a heartbeat too, but it's
oh
just something about the adventure, you know what I mean? Like
yeah. Yep.
getting out
Yeah,
in
and
the
that's how
middle
it
of
was for me
nowhere.
too. Yep, that's how it was for me too. I knew I could do it pretty much anywhere in the state and get a decent quality caribou. But like you said, the adventure was the main thing. If I didn't bring one home, honestly, yeah, it would have frustrated me. But I knew that if the stars aligned the right way, everything would work out, and it turned out amazing. No matter what the outcome was, I was ready for it. I knew if something got went sideways and I got stuck there, I was mentally ready for it. I knew if I got my caribou and my bear, I was ready for it.
Cool, heck yeah, man. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's more when I first started hunting, I was definitely, if I didn't get an animal, I would be pretty crushed, pretty bummed out, like
Yeah,
but now more so, I'm probably 13 years into my hunting career now, and I'm more about the adventure now. Getting an animal is the cherry on top, but
yeah,
since we are wheelchair bound, there's only so much we could do. I'm not gonna lie. It's not like I'm gonna get up and go backpacking out in the boons like I wish I could. I wish I would. You know what I mean? It is what
yeah,
it is.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely.
So getting
Yeah,
getting out there and doing the adventure part, that's the big thing, dude. Is just getting out of, and especially me. I'm in a urban society, dude. I'm in a suburb, so just getting out
yeah,
of town and getting into nature is where my goals
yep.
are at. But
Yeah,
yeah, man,
definitely.
that's
I
super
live
cool.
I live in town too, and it's definitely more urban around here too. But I drive 15 minutes, and I'm out in the middle of the woods.
Sick.
Yeah,
That's cool, man. Super pumped, dude. So Evan, what do you? So we're in September now. We're well into the hunting season. Hunting season's kicked off. Do you have any plans, any tags in your pocket that are just itching you, or what?
I do. I have a late archery season. Well, it's not really late. It's the archery season tag for South Dakota for either mule deer or whitetail. And I'm going to do that the beginning of November for about a week
So that's an
with a really,
archery tag, dude. How are you gonna? I thought this was a rifle tag. How are you gonna hunt this with archery?
so the South Dakota tag is archery. The Oregon tag in November is muzzleloader.
Got
So I
it.
got two tags for November. But the archery tag, I got a good buddy. Lynn Hoffman was actually up in Alaska when I was up there. He's one of the guides that's works with Riley and Stephanie, and he invited me to come to South Dakota for a week to try and help me knock off part of the deer slam, so I can get my mule deer or my whitetail knocked off the list, hopefully.
Heck
And
yeah.
so I'm gonna go do that with him for about a week, and then come home and see if I can knock down a Boone and Crockett style blacktail with my muzzleloader. I know there's some big
That's
ones
all.
in the area that I'm on.
Yeah,
There's
that's
there's
always
some
the
big ones. I've
dream.
seen some giants up there.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Boone and Crockett means a giant. Like
Yeah,
you're looking for a stud to where like you're gonna be amazed and in awe and wonder. So
yeah,
I'm rooting for you, brother. You know I'm rooting for you. We talk online a lot, dude, and we switch stories, dude. We pump each other up, dude, and
yep. And
yeah,
that's what we need. We need to have a community of us that do that for each other. Because there's days that we're all down on ourselves because something happened, and you need that little boost every once in a while to let let your buddies know life doesn't end just because this happened. It's just a few minutes of your day.
right. Yeah, dude. Yeah, they're not every day smooth sailing, especially in our life. You know what I mean? Dealing with the disabilities, no joke. People look at me like, oh, their legs don't work. It's like, dude, there's so much more than that. Like, it is so
Right.
much more than that. So yeah, if you got a buddy with a disability, reach out, pick them up, lift them up, and you know, let them know the days are gonna come and days are gonna go. You know, like
Yep. Exactly.
I'm a God fearing man. You know, the Bible says, "Worry about today, for tomorrow has enough trouble of its own." So crush the day, get out there and handle it.
Yep.
Evan, so I get like you're like Alaska was a big adventure.
Yeah.
Do you have like what's your next big adventure you have on the docket?
So I haven't planned it completely yet, but I really want to bring home a red stag from the North Island, New Zealand, and it's
Those
gonna
are no
happen.
joke. Those are no
Yeah.
joke. You say
Yep.
you saving up the pennies to get down there?
Slowly, I'm working on it. The South Dakota trip in a couple of weeks is gonna be the one that's taking most of my funds right now, but I've got a plan. I'll get to New Zealand probably in the next 2 years. That's my plan. Is I want to do something epic every like 2 years from now on until I retire or longer if I can physically do it. I'm trying so hard to stay focused, and I've done this with a lot of podcasts. I've been on a few different ones. I'm working on the Super 10, and I'm gonna if I can get it done, well, when I can get it done, not if. I'm gonna think positive. I'll be the only one in a wheelchair that's ever done the Super 10.
So Super 10, lay it on us. For
So
those who don't know what a Super 10 is, Evan's gonna describe it for us right now.
so there is 10 categories of animals in North America, and it is one of the biggest accomplishments in the hunting world, other than the North America 29. It's any of the elk, any of the deer, any of the moose, a caribou of any of the species, cougar, bison, mountain goat. Did I say antelope already?
Nope.
Okay, antelope, um, ram. What else am I missing? One more. So it's bison or antelope, or bison or musk ox. Let's see, bison or musk ox, deer, elk, bear. Bear was the last one. So yeah, any bear, any cougar, or any cougar, elk, bear. deer, bison, moose, caribou, antelope, mountain goat. Yeah, there's a big list, and it gets a little confusing because within a few of those species, there's three or four different ones.
Right. What do you think the hardest one out of all of those are going to get? Because those sheep and the ram and the cougars are going to be that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, so out of those, to be honest, I think probably the mountain goat would be the toughest one for me to physically do because I know where they're at here in Oregon, and if I plan it right, I can do it. It's just going to take a lot of manpower between me and my buddies to get me in the right spot, and then a lot of manpower to get the animal from where it's at to back to me because it's going to be a cross canyon type of shot
Yeah.
from what I've seen at least.
Yeah. Cool. Well, you're going to try to get them in on a feed on feeding, right? That's what I'd be guessing. They come down
So
out of the
the
hills, right?
yeah mountain goat, I'm gonna. There's a few uh, rock hillsides that I've seen them on in Northeast Oregon. So that's one of the units that I've been putting in for because they're a once in a lifetime controlled hunt tag in Oregon. So I can only do it once in Oregon. But I've also been looking into like Montana, Alaska, British Columbia, even, and a couple other states in the Northwest area. And I know it can be done. I just need to really focus in and figure out the logistics of it, like I did with my caribou. Like I said, that one took 2 years. This one will probably take that long, if not longer, to really figure out. Also,
Cool, man. I'm super pumped. That sounds like a blast, dude. Like
yeah,
my
yep,
like
I'm
being
looking forward
big
to it.
game hunters, that's got our minds just racing all over the place.
Yeah,
So I'm super stoked on that, dude. And I hope you nothing but success, man.
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Sweet. So all right, brother. Well, let's give some words of wisdom to people in wheelchairs who are thinking of trying to do something impossible, dude, or not impossible, just trying to think of doing something really hard or go up to Alaska or words of wisdom from Evan Brannock. Let's hear it.
Oh boy, can you still hear me? My earbud kind of crashed out on me.
There you go. There you hear you.
All right, words of wisdom: don't give up, and use the negativity that people try to project out there to fuel that passion inside. Make it something positive for yourself. It's if they're being negative, it's because they don't see something in themselves, or they see something in you that they don't see in themselves. That they don't think that they can do it, so they're going to try and bring you down to their level. So always try to help everybody feel positive about life in some way, even if it's just being like smile and say hi. That's sometimes that's all people need.
Yeah, it's just the hello, man. I highly endorse that. I've seen it
Yeah,
a bunch of people to where I've just been talking randomly and just a
yeah,
quick hello
and it,
changes the day.
and it throws them off at first, but eye contact does definitely show who you are to people. And if you're insecure, I've been that way a couple times. Insecure, and you don't want to look at somebody because you don't feel confident. But the more confidence you build, the more it projects out there and shows everybody. And you can feel it when you're confident, and others can feel it when you're confident.
Well said, man. Well said. Well, I love it, dude. I'm considering this is the first episode. I'm gonna I'm gonna start doing something, and I'm gonna leave it at that. But I'm a God fearing man. I'm gonna say a quick word of prayer, and at the end of every episode. So Just going to lift it up real quick and we'll finish it off with that. Father
Okay.
God, thank you so much for blessing us with the opportunity to have Evan here on the show, the first show, Lord God. I pray that you would bless this show. Let it blossom, Lord, and let those who need to hear it, God, and let it touch their hearts where they need to grow, Lord. So thank you again for giving us this opportunity and blessing us with this situation and letting Evan accomplish something that's absolutely incredible, Lord. I can't wait to get my chance. It's in your son's name. Amen. Appreciate you, Evan. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
brother.